Hey everyone, this is Editor Me, and I just wanted to let you guys know before we begin this video that I actually shot this whole thing over a year ago. I just have some wicked procrastination skills and really put off editing this thing until just recently. So yeah, this actual video is about a year old, despite that I am now posting it as of, July 25th of 2026 when I shot this in 2025. So yeah, it's long overdue, but it's in my archive. I wanted to get this out there, especially because this is a special car for the family. At least this is my mom's car. That's why I've made the video in the first place, and I just wanted to get this out there. So, all right, let's get back to the actual video. This is a 2017 Buick Regal, and it's my mom's new 2017 Buick Regal. For those of you who have always wondered why the only cars I've owned, at least at this point, are Buicks, let's just say my mom is into Buicks, and this is technically her third one. Her history with owning Buicks started with a 2004 Park Avenue. I remember that car very well. And then later down the line, she eventually got a 2011 Buick Lucerne after the Park Avenue was getting a little rusty, old, well, kind of time to retire. But to my surprise, that car didn't live as her daily driver for that long, because apparently the family started running into problems where, we got friends and all that coming over, and then kind of would like to have a little more space on the occasion. And so eventually my parents ended up getting a 2004 GMC Yukon Denali, which for many years that was actually her daily driver. But the Yukon Denali is having a few issues, not necessarily in powertrain. The powertrain for the most part has been relatively healthy, but it's having a lot of electrical faults. She's on her 5th set of tires. Yes, 5 sets of tires on that thing. I have no idea how she's burned through that many, but it's driving her absolutely mad. And the same goes for her wallet too. She has not been happy that she's had to pay for 5 sets of tires. But in combination with it's also just old. That car is now 21 years old. And up here in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the salt that we get up here in the winter is just brutal on these cars, and it's rusting left and right. Oh, you should see my dad's truck. It's in even worse condition. And so finally, just today actually, she bought this, a 2017 Buick Regal with all-wheel drive. And another funny story before we finally get into the tour and all that, because I'm sure you guys are waiting on that. Another funny story that actually has to do with the silver Buick Lucerne that she still has. It's actually parked right over there. The funny story is we bought that Buick Lucerne from a friend of ours, particularly one of my fellow organists. The funny thing is, as my mom was starting to look for a new car, we get a call from same person, the same exact person who used to own that Buick Lucerne. We get a call from her saying, hey, I'm gonna sell my car. Would you like to buy it? And that's this car. So yeah, I personally find it hilarious how for the second car in a row, we bought it basically from the same person. And yet we see that person all the time. So yeah, these cars, they don't go very far after their first and second owners. Although this was actually a one-owner vehicle. Well, now it's on its second owner, my mom. But on the odometer, it's got about 48,000 miles, which is basically the same mileage I picked up my car for. So you'd think that this was just turned in from a lease, but nope. It's just been a daily driver for 7 years. Well, okay, a little bit of road trips here and there, but for the most part, just a daily driver. And yeah, that's a bit of the story about my mom purchasing this car. But I guess we should also discuss the whole point of the Buick Regal as well, since that's what you're probably more interested in, and not my family's history with car ownership. So the Buick Regal is positioned as Buick's mid-size sedan. I'm used to very long sedans where, again, the Park Avenue, that was Buick's full-size sedan at the time with a massive, just massive back seat. Then when my parents got the Buick Lucerne, again, that was their full-size sedan, absolutely massive back seat. And then eventually later on, I would buy a Buick Lucerne, Red Fox, if you're familiar with this channel. And now my current daily driver, Stardust, is a Buick LaCrosse, which is their new full-size sedan. How many full-size sedans has Buick gone through? Jeez. So I must admit, the fact that this is a mid-size is a bit of a shock factor for me, because the past few Buicks that this whole family has owned has always been full-size sedans. We'll get into the backseat review in just a little bit. So it is a bit strange going to a mid-sizer on this one. But interestingly, also completely unlike what we're used to, those full-size sedans that Buick has always made are nice luxury cars. They ride comfortable. The whole point is just to be big and comfortable, not the Regal. The Regal is not this way at all, and I learned this when I rode on the test drive of this car. This was actually positioned a bit as a sport sedan. In fact, if you guys have heard of the Regal GS, that was the literal sport marketing of the sports sedan. And so this one is going to be a bit interesting for me, because I'm used to Buick's luxury, comfortable sedans. This is not that, and I'm kind of excited for it. So without further ado, let's finally get into the spec dump and take you on a tour. The specs that I will list off today are only going to be specific to the very car that I have in front of me, and that's because finding some information on the internet is a little convoluted, so I'll just stick to what we have in front of us today. So in terms of our powertrain specs, this car is equipped with the optional 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine that produces 259 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. That engine is mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission, which in this case is connected to all 4 wheels, although there's a bunch of these that are offered in front-wheel drive as well, I'll have you note. And in terms of our fuel economy ratings, well, it's rated at 19 city, 27 highway, and 22 combined, according to the EPA. And with the fuel tank size of 18 gallons, that will produce a range of 342 miles in the city to 468 on the highway. And the average selling price for these Buick Regals tends to go for around $17,500 for the similar condition and mileage that this particular car is in. Starting at the front of the car, it's Buick's traditional design language between 2011 and 2016, 2017. So it's got a lot of Buick's design language from that era with the waterfall grille being big and bold like this, along with this giant Buick emblem right here. It expands very nicely out, and then we have our headlights right here, where unfortunately, to my surprise, I thought this was actually going to be an LED running light. But it's not. It's actually a halogen bulb. An interesting design choice, to say the least. But as far as I can tell from our headlights here, these are HIDs. We have halogen turn signals, so not exactly the best lighting setup. But then this particular model year, 2017, was the last model year of this generation of Buick Regal. They did update it to give it proper LED lighting. This is not that updated model. This is the previous generation. And then I can also see we got some halogen fog lamps right down here as well. In terms of what we have under the hood here, I don't remember the exact displacement, but I believe this is Buick's optional 2-liter turbo engine. Oh, it's just the 12-volt battery. I'm not used to seeing a 12-volt battery under the hood, because for the past too many model years of Buicks, they basically stuff the battery elsewhere in the car, either under the back seat or in the trunk. It's kind of odd for me to see a battery actually under the hood in a Buick. This is, wow, didn't expect to find that. An actual normal design decision. Who would have thought? But yeah, it's basically GM's 2-liter turbocharged engine, and, well, I'll cover exactly what the specs of this engine produce in the spec dump. But overall, very, very healthy powertrain under the hood here, and we're going to find that out on the test drive. Also, I'd like to point out, thank you for not using a prop rod, Buick. Prop rods suck. In terms of sizing for our vehicle, once again, as I mentioned, this is a mid-size sedan, which for a mid-size sedan doesn't exactly feel like it. It definitely feels like it's on the larger end of the mid-size sedan class, because I've definitely seen sedans that are classified as mid-size that are 100% smaller than this vehicle right here. Like, I am positive a Chevy Cruze is shorter than this vehicle, and that's just Buick's general shtick, especially with their full-size sedans. Buick has always been like, let's make the largest sedan possible, and so that way we got a ton of trunk space, ton of back seat. That was Buick's thing, and I'm really upset that Buick doesn't make sedans anymore, because truly, and I mean this quite seriously, in terms of gas-powered sedans, Buick kind of made the best. And while I admit I do love the look of this car a lot, both from the front and the side and the rear, seriously, it's actually a very good looking vehicle from all angles, there is a design decision that I'm not particularly a fan of. And it's not just in the looks department, it's in the practicality department. Why is the fuel door on the wrong side of the car? I've gone off on this how many times now? The fuel door should always be on the same side as the driver, because who's likely the person filling up the car? It's not the passenger, it's the driver. I'm also a bit disappointed to see that this actually has one of those twist caps. Yeah, it's not capless, so that's gonna be a bit annoying. I was kind of hoping my mom would finally get a taste. That's an interesting click method. I was kind of actually hoping that my mom would get a taste of the capless fuel design, but nope, guess we didn't go new enough for that yet. Although the Buick LaCrosse 2017 model did have a capless design. And finally, we come to the rear of the Buick Regal. And may I just say, oh my gosh, there's a bee. That's a bee. That's a bee. I don't like bees. Stay away from me. And coming to the rear of the Buick Regal, once again, we got another interesting design that does look sharp, but I think the sharpness actually makes it look really good. Although, unfortunately, I do have to go off on yet another rant because, well, it's a classic rant that everybody's quite familiar with. I have a couple tests for taillights, and I do believe this is important, and so let's go over that test real quick. First up, the LED light bulb test. Those are not LED lights. Those are very much halogen bulbs right there. The reverse lights appear to also be halogens as well, so we have a grand total of 0 LED taillights. That's unfortunate. But that's not the only thing that's unfortunate about these taillights. They have all this space up here to do who knows what, and yet they chose, once again, this is how they fail this test all the time, to integrate the brake light and the turn signal into the exact same bulb. And you guys know, if you watch this channel, just how much I hate this decision. Brake light should always be red, turn signal should always be amber. There should be no in between. That's how it should be. Get with the program, GM. But while we're back here, we might as well discuss a few other things, such as the trunk, which, yes, there is a button right underneath the Buick logo to pop it. And boy, does it drive me absolutely insane when you cannot pop the trunk from the rear of the vehicle. But yeah, the trunk is now popped. Let's discuss some amenities. So I see we got a nice little cargo net here, which I'm going to temporarily take out. We got a couple floor mats that are from the previous owner, so I don't think those came with the car, but yeah, those are there. This latch looks familiar. It looks like the same latch that I used to flip up this, and oh, we do have a spare tire. Good move, Buick. Yep, always want to see those spare tires under here. In terms of cargo space, it actually seems pretty average, especially for this class. It almost looks the same size as my trunk, which the trunk in my car is pretty much mediocre. And you know what? Let's prove that out. Oh yeah, the space in here is just fine for a sedan trunk. I have different methods of measurement for each vehicle. I measure trunk space in sedans differently compared to crossovers, because if crossovers are going to have a ginormous trunk lid and all that Z height, then I'm test to make sure that they utilize it correctly. But in trunks like this, actually, I got plenty of room. I can suck myself back all just fine. One thing that I am disappointed to see, though, despite that these seats here do actually fold 60-40 split that I can see from here, the way that you have to unlock them is not my preferred method. I prefer to have the ability to unlock the seats from in here in the trunk, so that way, should someone try to break into the car, they can't fold down the seats from inside the car like that. They can only do it if the trunk is open, but the trunk is a secure location that they cannot access. It's not true of the cabin space because, well, sure, you could lock the doors. Why do you think they bust the windows? So, in terms of the car camping capabilities in this car, I would highly not recommend it, as we got a massive hump between the backs of the seats and the floor of this trunk. So, unless your butt happens to fit perfectly in that hump, kind of like mine right now actually. Thing is though, I'm shorter than the average adult. I don't think a lot of people are going to be comfortable car camping back here. But I will say, if you do happen to have longer items that can't fit in the trunk, it is nice that you can fold the seats 60-40 split like this. And then final notes of the trunk's amenities I'd like to talk about. I do like to see that we actually have some guards right here that prevent the trunk lid rails from crushing your cargo. That is nice to see, so you don't have to worry about crushing cargo in this thing. And the other thing that I like to see in a trunk is that you got a nice little assist grip here, I can reach it, to help you close it. So you might have noticed that headlight there is kind of hard to see. There's a lot of condensation built up in it. Yeah, don't worry about that. We're well aware of that, and we're going to get that taken care of at some point. But we're done with the exterior at this point. It's time to step inside to show you what this thing actually looks like. This is the key fob that comes with the car. It's GM's typical switchblade key fob that they use at the time with a lot of their models, such as the Equinox, the Cruise, other Buick models at the time. This is a very common key fobs design that you'll see amongst GM's lineup during that era. The way this works is it's very simple. You got this chrome button on top to fold out your switchblade key, and then you'll have a few buttons right here for your lock and your unlock. You also have remote start on this car, so to engage it, all you need to do is just lock the car, hold the remote start button, and the engine starts up just like that. Unfortunately, on this car though, there is no smart entry system. There's no button on the door handle nor sensor to unlock it. That means you are going to have to use the key fob here to unlock this, which is a bit of a shame. I kind of wish that they did put something on. They didn't. So the particular interior color of this one is jet black. I'm sure you can get lighter interior colors other than this. I just hate jet black interiors. I really despise jet black interiors. In terms of our seating, it's basically GM's standard 8-way power adjustment with 2-way lumbar. Nice leather seats. I don't know if there's a lower end model with cloth, but in general, it's just uncommon to find a Buick with cloth seats. Most of the time, you're just going to get leather seating anyway. And the leather feels nice. It's not the highest end leather that you'd find in like a Cadillac or something, but it's definitely nice enough. And in terms of getting in the car, oh, that step in height is so easy. People claim that it's easier to get in and out of SUVs. I have no clue what they're talking about. And once we shut the door, very solid thunk. Despite that this is a 7-year-old car, it still feels very well put together, at least from the door perspective. We'll talk about the interior cabin materials and all that in just a little bit. It's really hot in here, so I'm going to start this thing up to get the AC running. And unfortunately, push button start was not yet made available for this car until they basically redesigned it. At least that's what I hear. I hear that you can get some of these with push button start, but this one in particular doesn't have it, which, funny as it is, my mom actually prefers it this way. My mom prefers having to put the key in and starting it like a normal car. So yeah, sorry if you hear any wind noise coming on the microphones on this, but it is so hot. If I do not run the AC, I might actually die. In terms of material quality, unfortunately, this is not really what I like to see in a semi-luxury car like this. We do have soft touch plastics here, which thankfully it's not hard. And then I'm not sure what this particular material is. It's really gray. I can't tell if this is a wood or if it's supposed to be a kind of carbon fiber-esque piece. I think it's supposed to be wood, but I'm not completely sure. Although I will admit, interestingly, I normally don't point this out just yet, but interestingly, I'm noticing this wood is wrapping from the door straight into the dash, just like that. That's an interesting design trend that I haven't seen in a lot of cars lately. A lot more soft touch plastics. The once we come to our armrest here, that's where we start getting nice soft leather, and oh, that is a very nice leather. This is leather that I do like to see. This is not an aluminum door handle. This is plastic. I think you really have to go for Buick's flagship lineup to get a proper aluminum door handle, but nope, this is plastic. You'll also find your lock and unlock buttons right here and your mirror controls. Coming down further, we have another fake aluminum piece right here. This really is just plastic. I'm kind of surprised that Buick is using plastics for their aluminum-ish looking trim pieces, but I say I'm surprised by this because I'm used to seeing GMCs that actually do swap out this type of material for real aluminum. Because this is supposed to be a nicer car, I am shocked to see the plastics in here. So in terms of our window controls, we are going to have to do an automatic test because I don't see any of these labeled automatic. So okay, let's test them out. Driver's door, we are auto down, and how about auto up? Okay, auto up. Driver's windows auto up. Okay, that's good to see. How about the front passenger? Auto down and auto up. Okay, I do like to see that. And what did they do for the rear windows? Auto down, but not auto up. So that is exactly like my car. Thank you, Buick, for making the passenger front window at least auto up, because usually the missus would prefer that, though. Again, this is my mom's car. She's going to be in this seat, so I'm not entirely sure who's going to appreciate the auto up window on that in this particular example, but I do like to see both front windows fully automatic. And then finally finishing up the door here, we do have some mediocre door storage at best. I can't really tell. Oh, yep, you can fit a water bottle. There's a carve out for a water bottle in here. And then this is the button right here that will pop the trunk. And to finish up our cabin materials, the dash, once again, is a soft touch plastic, which it doesn't necessarily feel the nicest. And then we have some interesting fake aluminum accents. Yep, that is still plastic, not real aluminum. And then again, that weird, odd looking wood trim piece. And then the same thing, they did the same thing with the wood on the door, integrating that into the dash like that. I've never seen anything like that in a car, but I do like it. Not gonna lie, I do like that. That fake wood extends down into here. Yep, it is very fake. This is 100% plastic. Nope, that's plastic. I thought that was actual aluminum. This is closer to feeling like real aluminum, but this is not real aluminum. And then we of course got some shiny chrome. And then unfortunately, something that I don't like to see is these lower bits of the cabin here are a very hard plastic. These do not feel nice. And I'm especially complaining because I prefer to have my knee bump against something soft. This is not a soft surface for my knee to bump against, so I'm a bit disappointed in that. And then finishing off this side of the cabin, we'll find our headlight controls. Of course, they'll be fully automatic. And then is this how you activate? Yep, that's how you activate the fog lights, okay. And then also right here is you'll find your interior lighting dimmer switch. Coming to our steering wheel here, it is very nicely leather wrapped as always. And I'd argue that these buttons right here are actually a little bit nicer than the buttons that I have on my steering wheel, which again, my car is a 2019 Buick LaCrosse, which is their flagship sedan, and yet I'd argue these buttons are nicer. They got chrome tips in between the buttons here. Wow. Yeah, I'd argue these buttons are nicer than my car. But on this side of the steering wheel, you'll find your cruise control settings right here along with quick voice controls right here to answer and end calls. And then on this side of the steering wheel, you'll find your media controls. And then speaking of your media controls, we should talk about the display here. So let's see. Yep, this is basically laid out the exact same in my car, where you have an information page. You can display your audio, phone, and navigation along with a couple options, such as changing your units from miles to kilometers per hour, for example. And yeah, it's just a basic information screen, nothing completely fancy or anything noteworthy. Although I will say I find it interesting that this has an eco index, and yet 20.5 miles per gallon. That's probably just because we're idling right here right now. And in terms of our gauge cluster layout, we got our tachometer here, fuel gauge there, coolant temperature there, and our speedometer right there. Can this thing actually go to 160 miles an hour? Oh, wait a minute. But I also have to factor in this speedometer needs to be able to read kilometers. In terms of our stocks, this is where you'll find basically your high beam and turn signal stocks, and nothing really fancy with this one, because the wipers are going to be found on this stock right here. I think these are rain sensing, but don't quote me on that. Moving on to storage, because that's always an important thing. This is a bit of an awkward center console, because as you can see, we got an interesting gap here, but the button's right here to open it up. You have to kind of snap it in place. Very tiny center console. You're not going to fit a lot of stuff into that. And right in here, we're going to find some power connections, a couple USBs, an aux port if you have an older device you want to interface with the radio on, and a 12-volt outlet right there. And right beside that in this bin, you'll find your cup holders where you can fit, not the largest size cups, but fit something fairly decent. Got a little container here you can use to store coins or maybe your key, or, oh wait, no, your key is right here, so never mind that. You do have an electronic parking brake. And then further up here, we're going to find a very tiny ashtray. I think so, at least. I don't know what you put in this. This is not big enough to fit a phone, because you also have another 12-volt outlet right there. And yeah, it's a fairly traditional storage solution, and traditional in the sense that we also still have a traditional, well, gear selector. So you just pull it back all the way for drive as always, and if you want to shift manually, you can bump it to the left. And let's see how many gears we got in the transmission. If I had to guess, probably a 6-speed automatic. For reverse, all you have to do is shift like a normal shifter. And the backup camera, I'll admit, is not necessarily the best. It's kind of grainy, a little fuzzy, but I do appreciate that it is not fisheye. I hate fisheye cameras. This thing actually has maybe a slight bit of the opposite problem. Instead of being too fisheyed, I think it's actually a little too narrow, as I'm seeing these trajectory lines. Well, they're kind of extending outside of the screen. So almost perfect zoom, but I'm at least grateful that it's not a fisheye camera. I hate seeing fisheye cameras. Moving up from there, we'll come to our climate controls, and thankfully you can interface with them completely through this. And actually, if I look through the infotainment system here, yeah, there's
OnStar ready. Go back. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah, there's not even a climate menu in the infotainment system. So yeah, all of your climate controls are going to be found right here. You can adjust your temperature via this. Oh, Oh, this is a bad method. Wow, I do not like this at all. It's completely touch capacitive. You have no idea if you're pushing the button correctly or not. That's a bit annoying, but at least the rest of your buttons here are physical, like your fan speed, your AC, toggle switch, your defrosters, and your recirc button. You'll find your power for your climate controls as a physical button too, along with your sync and automatic settings right there. It is dual zone automatic, no tri-zone available. And you do also have 3-stage heated seats, and I'm assuming that on higher, fancier versions of this, you can get 3-stage ventilated seats right here as well, but we just have the heated. But that's fine. We're in Michigan. We don't need the ventilated seats up here. To my surprise, we actually have a CD player in this car. 2017, and we still have a CD player. That thing was a dying trend at the time. And now that brings us up to our audio system. So from what I can tell, I don't think it's branded. It does not appear to be anything special. That means this is probably not going to be the nicest sounding audio system, which will be a first for me in a Buick. I've never been in a Buick without the optional higher end system. So let's take a sample. Wow. So again, I don't know if this is an upgraded sound system or not because there's no labeling on the speakers, but actually, that's not bad. That's pretty good. Because I'm an audiophile, I do think that the tuning could use just a tad more refinement, which is again the reason why I'm not sure if this is upgraded or not, but knowing my mom and how little she cares about sound quality and music and such, I have a feeling this will do her just fine. So you know what? Sound quality is an easy pass in this car. Very, very nice. And I guess this will finally take us to our infotainment system here, which to my surprise is not that out of date. This is the same exact infotainment system that we'll find in my car, for example, just not including the climate controls because those are all physical buttons down there. But yeah, it's basically nothing all that fancy because, well, GM just knows how to make infotainment super easy to use. And, well, that's the case right here. Your basic music screen will contain all of your radio such, and yeah, we got two different buttons here. We got one for radio and one for media. Those are kind of redundant in my opinion. I don't understand why these are here. Oh, and because again, we have a CD player, we have an eject button to, well, eject CDs from the CD player. You'll find your seek buttons right here for if you're seeking through music on your phone, along with your volume knob. And what's this menu button here? Oh, so this just takes you to some quick settings within each app. Because, yeah, if I recall, let's see, tone. Yeah, this is the equalizer. Ah, and the equalizer's been played here. That's why it sounds pretty good. Okay. That's at least good to see. Yeah, with those EQ settings, that's hard to disagree with, actually. So, all right, yeah, that works. And then, of course, you'll find your home and back buttons here. I prefer to see these over here instead of far away. GM has done this on a couple of infotainment systems, and I don't like how they'll put it far away like this. I prefer it in close reach. but that's what they chose to do. The phone app is fairly self-explanatory. I'm not going to open it because, well, I don't need you to see all of my contacts and their phone numbers for obvious reasons. And to my surprise, this is the second GM vehicle I have ever been in that does actually have the factory navigation. I'm not going to open it because I'm at home and I don't want you guys to know where I live. So, but yes, we do have the factory navigation in this car. But that doesn't even matter to me, nor will it matter to my mom because, well, she's not one for navigation, and I'm willing to bet she's more likely going to open up Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in her case, as she's an Android user, and just use Google Maps on her phone. But yeah, I do still appreciate to see Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on this, even though this does have the factory nav, which I found in my car at least, it's not very reliable. So I do appreciate having Apple CarPlay. You'll find a few other random apps like Pandora and your weather and texting and such, and your OnStar data and whatever. In terms of your settings, it's basically the same as every other car from this vintage. You'll find your time and date, your valet mode, a couple of radio settings, vehicle, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Somewhere in here, I'm willing to bet there should be a teen driver, which my mom is going to wish she would have activated before leaving this car for me to film. Although I will admit, I'm a bit surprised that I'm not finding it right at this very moment. Let me see, is it under vehicle? Huh, there's no teen driver settings in this. So I guess she's gonna have no idea how I drive this thing. Oops. I don't want to go into valet mode. Okay, can we scroll with this? Yes, we can use this knob here to scroll through all of these settings. So this is definitely a slightly older version of this infotainment system, missing a few features here and there, but it is interesting to see that it does have the factory navigation, and we've got built-in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And then to finally top things off from the infotainment system, we'll find a physical traction control off button, which is a good thing, especially up here, because up here, this is a very important button to have. And then our hazards button right here. Up here, it's a basic standard auto dimming mirror, nothing fancy, and you'll find your OnStar controls right here. Along with up top, it's not LED illumination, it's just halogen. And then, yeah, this is definitely an older control panel. It's very interesting to see so many bits of modern Buick, but also slightly older Buick as well. Because, oh, this was like late 2000s part up here. Same with this mirror, and yet all this infotainment system and a lot of this stuff here is like mid 2010s. So it's kind of interesting to see the blend of older and newer tech in here. To my surprise, this is just completely blank. I don't know why this is completely blank. I would have expected to see like a sunglasses holder here or something, but nope. Even though my mom is not one to care for these all that much, we do however happen to have a sunroof, and I'm not going to open it because she will yell at me if she finds out that I open this thing. But it does open, it does tilt, and I am assuming that there is going to be a wind buffer built into here, so that way if you do open this, well, you can't complain too much. And finally, to top off the front, we got to discuss the glove box. It's dampened and it is felt lined. I can't even say the same about my car. What? In terms of our sun visors, we got a built-in mirror with illumination. It detaches and it does extend. And if I had to guess, when I test it with the passenger side, yep, mirror, lights, we detach and we extend. I guess another thing I should start pointing out in my videos too, we do have assist grip handles, not just on the passenger side, which is always appreciated, but also the driver's side. I do wish that my car had one of these because it kind of would help getting out of the car. That's a basic tour of what's up front. Time to retrieve my evil twin and check out the rear. All right, evil twin, do you approve of mom's new car? Not entirely sure about that just by looking at the position of that seat over there, but I guess we better get into it. So to start off with this back seat review, in terms of materials, I mean, this is kind of soft touch plastic, but I feel that this is downgraded compared to the front. This does not feel particularly nice at all. Chrome handle here, plasticky fake aluminum trim right here. Not very appreciated. Although I do like this leather padded armrest here, though. Once again, the windows are auto down, but why are they not auto up? That's annoying. At least our door pockets here have decent storage, though it doesn't really look like a water bottle would fit in here nicely. It'd probably flop around all over the place. But I do like to see we got speakers built in right here. Moving further in, we got mat pockets on both seats, which is a good thing. We got climate vents back here, which definitely won't complain about, and interesting storage tray here. I have no idea what I'm supposed to put there. Although I would like to see USB ports or some method to charge my devices back here, because as far as I can see, not a single power port, and that's a bit unfortunate. We do happen to have a center armrest right here with a very tiny tab, but ooh, and look what we have here. We got a built-in center console to store some junk. And then we also have a couple cup holders here with some plasticky securing mounts, which is interesting to say the least. In terms of seat comfort, this actually fits my body very well. Can't complain too much. There's nothing weird pressing against me at all. Of course, seating for 3 across, although I will admit, whoever sits in the center here is going to have a lovely, lovely hump to deal with. And finally, the last thing we have to talk about, of course, is space. I should point out right now that I am short at 5'8", and my head is actually technically touching the ceiling as I'm leaning back. Oh, here, let me flip the camera. Yes, my head is touching the ceiling as I am leaning back. So, and I'm short. I'm 5'8". So if you're taller, beware. But speaking of being 5'8", let's discuss some rear seating space back here, which this is a bit unusual because I've never been in a mid-size Buick sedan. But let's see, we got pretty good space behind myself. The seat is currently set to where I drive. This is what I'm nervous about. So let's see, can I get in there to begin with? Oh, all right. Oh, I got one knee in. My knees are digging into the seat. In fact, the mat pocket is actually pushing against my legs in a very uncomfortable manner. Definitely not recommended for taller passengers back here. Now, albeit this seat is scooted all the way back and it can move a little more forward to give some more reasonable legroom back here. But this is just weird to me though, because I'm so used to Buick having roomy back seats, but where is it? It's not here. Ah! All right, driving the 2017 Buick Regal. And because this is not a dealer car, I get to take this on my test loop. Oh, she gets up and goes. Buick positioned this car, instead of marketing it as a traditional luxury vehicle like they marketed the Lucerne, the Park Avenue, the LaCrosse, they marketed those as traditional luxury vehicles. But this car, they marketed it different and built it for a very different task. This thing was a car to have fun in, which is very atypical of Buick to me because I'm so used to all of their comfortable luxury cars, and this is not that at all. That means the powertrain has a lot of pep to it. For a turbo 4-cylinder, it's literally the perfect size for a car like this. I cannot complain about the engine in this at all. It's really getting up to speed quite nicely. But when we start to hit corners like this one, oh, please don't fall over camera. Oh, so much better than even my car. Granted, my car is a full-size sedan, but they didn't optimize it for performance. This thing, they actually tried to produce a fun car. If we do a quick, let's say I want to pass somebody, what's the passing power like in this? Slight delay in the transmission, but that's really the case with all of these non-sport vehicles, although this one is marketed to be sporty. So other than the slight delay, yeah, this thing gets up and goes. She's peppy, she's zippy, and she's so fun to drive. This is what I love about sedans. They're just so much better to actually drive. And in this car, oh, it is no exception. This thing is really fun, albeit we haven't even gotten it on the twisty section yet. Coming up to this intersection though, in terms of brake feel, you gotta put your foot into it a little more than I'm used to, especially compared to my car. My car, you the second you touch the brake, you're instantly engaged. This one's a little more laxed, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it's a little more laxed. Little delay between actuating the shift and the shift taking place. But all right, yeah, now we're into the twisty section here. Oh my gosh, this thing is taking it in strides. Look at how easy this thing just tackles the road. What? My goodness! This is so fun! Maybe I should have bought one of these instead of Stardust. I don't know. This is fun! And Mom's gonna be fucking pissed at me right now. My friend that previously owned this, she was not kidding. This thing is zippy. It's fun. I'm taking these corners like nobody's business in this thing. And it's a Buick. Typically, Buicks are not associated with fun driving, but my gosh, this is actually quite lovely. We're gonna have to start slowing down, but wow. All right, yep. Wow, I am absolutely blown away. This is the most fun I've ever had in any car. I mean, I really wish that I could have taken that Malibu that I reviewed from the dealership down this way. Problem is they won't let me. And there's a reason why I call this my test loop. It's this particular road I love to use because it's twisty and it really lets you open up the car and see its performance. Because it's not always just about the acceleration, it's also handling and cornering. And wow, this is just an amazing experience. But now that we're out of the twisty section and going back into normal daily commuting speeds, in terms of ride quality, this is pretty smooth. Now, albeit, the seats that I'm sitting in right now, it feels a little firmer than my car, which is a bit of a surprise. I mean, my car has had more miles put on it, so the seats are definitely worn in on that compared to this. This currently has roughly 48,000 on it. But yeah, we're riding very smoothly right now. To my surprise, driving at roughly 60 miles an hour, the engine's basically hovering at about 2,000 RPM, which is a little higher than I'm used to in my car. And what gear are we in? We are in 6th, so that we are in top gear. So if I had to guess, when we get up to full highway speeds on this, fuel economy may start to tank. So I'm willing to bet this is not going to have the greatest highway fuel economy rating. Fun factor aside, that's obviously going to be pretty high in this car. Let's talk about a few other things, such as visibility. The mirrors are tiny. I'm actually not a fan of the size of these mirrors. I do wish they were bigger. Despite how fun of a vehicle this is to drive, it's a bit difficult to see towards the back. Albeit, looking out the back windshield, you got a lot of visibility, which I'm shocked because I typically don't get anywhere near as much visibility out the rear compared to any other sedan I've been in. But the mirrors need to be bigger. There's no question about that. Forward visibility, the dash is relatively low, which helps. The hood is also short and low, so you can see easily out front. I'm gonna get out in front of this truck because this car makes it so easy. Side window visibility, it's about average. It's not the best I've seen, but also not the worst. I'd say if sideways visibility is average, although the B-pillar is a little too far forward for where I prefer. So that's pretty much the only downside. The B-pillar is not in an ideal position for my driving position, at least. Seat comfort, it does feel firm. The seats feel a lot firmer than what I'm used to. I gotta point that out again. But in terms of the seat shape, I've been in much worse seats than this. Although, the way the bolster's currently adjusted right now, I hadn't touched that yet. Oh, there we go. Now that I'm deflating the bolster, oh, that feels so much better on my back. I should also mention that the powertrain, this particular one is all-wheel drive. I'm sure there's front-wheel drive versions of this available, but this one in particular is all-wheel drive, which means this thing shouldn't have any issues getting around when the blizzards hit. Albeit, we've never had any issues with front-wheel drive vehicles or rear-wheel drive. Sure, they can get a little squirrely every now and again, but we've never really had any major issues with that. And here's the section where we've got quite a few bumps. So let's see how the suspension ride quality is here. This is what I'm waiting for last. Pretty good. I wouldn't say as good as my car, albeit they tuned the suspension more for performance driving, so that means it's going to be a little stiffer, which is exactly exactly how it's behaving, but it's not uncomfortable either. I mean, it's a Buick. They have to make sure that comfort is a big factor of this. This is supposed to be a step above Chevy and GMC, and the comfort is still there, but it's not going to be anywhere near as comfortable as, say, the LaCrosse. Ultimately, in terms of the driving experience, the weekend categories, this thing, despite being a normal car, this thing is going to be up there in the weekend categories, which is going to be a first. I've never really had any vehicle that did well in those categories on the cardboard except the Hummer EV, because that was literally the whole point of it. It was supposed to be a fun, stupid, giant supercar, and it certainly excelled in those categories. It was fun. Normal cars typically don't do well, and while this is technically a normal car, this thing is going to be up there in the weekend categories. I can feel it. No, it's no Lamborghini or Ferrari, but dude, it's just fun. Starting off under the hood, in terms of our power capabilities, this engine produces enough power to get a whopping 6 out of 10. I think that this is the highest score I've ever given in this category, actually. And in terms of our transmission, it has 6 speeds, and the tuning is good enough to keep its 6 out of 10 score. In terms of drivetrain, while my particular tester does have all-wheel drive, my mom's car does have all-wheel drive, I know it is not standard equipment. You can get these things with front-wheel drive only, and so I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. 0 to 60 is fast enough to give us a 6 out of 10, and fuel economy is pretty okay. According to the numbers, it adds up to a 6 out of 10. And that brings us to a total of 28 out of 50. Moving on to the weekend categories, though, I think this car will probably fare the best out of every other sedan I've tested. In terms of styling, well, the design's nothing really special. It's not ugly, but it's not pretty either, so I gave it an average 5 out of 10. Visibility, I wanted to give this a 6 until I remembered just how tiny those mirrors are, and because those mirrors are so tiny, I just have to dock it to a 5 out of 10. But visibility is not terrible. Handling, though, is where this thing really shines. This thing handles corners so well. I gave it a 6 out of 10 for its handling performance. It's no sports car, but it does so well in this category. And that contributes a lot to the fun factor. Due to the acceleration and handling capabilities of this car, if you want to take this thing into corners, you absolutely can, and you can have some fun. And so I'm giving this a 4 out of 10, which I was very surprised by. Although I still have yet to find another car that does well in this next category, and that's cool factor. I don't think a lot of people find this car very cool. It's just a Buick, and most people don't really understand what the car's supposed to be. And as a result, I think it kind of deserves its 1 out of 10 for scoring, which brings us to a total of 21 out of 50. Finally, we move on to the daily category. Starting off with features, this thing's very well equipped. It has a sunroof, an infotainment system that's actually decent, though it is lacking a few other strange features such as adaptive cruise control, push button start, things like that. And so I'm just giving it an average 5 out of 10. It's not offensive, but I don't know, it's average. Comfort, however, is mostly average, but after a couple road trips in this car, I found the seats to be just a little harder than I prefer, and so I'm docking it to a 4 out of 10. Quality is a bit of a mixed bag. The materials are pretty plasticky. They're not horrible, but I do kind of question the actual build quality of this particular car. It hasn't really lived a rough life, and yet the interior of this car is just creaking like crazy. And this is not a high mileage example at the time. So I'm giving this a 4 out of 10 for quality. Practicality, though, is pretty solid. The trunk is relatively spacious. I would have normally given Buicks a 7 out of 10 because, I mean, that's just Buick's thing. They're so practical because they're so big, but the problem is this is their smaller one, and the back seats can get a little tight depending on who's sitting up front. So I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Finally, that brings us to value, and honestly, I can't really complain too much about the value. It's not the best value car out there either, but it's not the worst, and so I'm actually giving this an average 5 out of 10. Low mileage examples can be found often around for the $17,000 mark, and if you go for higher mileage examples, then, well, the prices might start to get a little more appealing. But nonetheless, I don't think there's anything special about the value of this car. It's a solid overall package, especially for the price, so I'm giving it a 5 out of 10, which brings us to a total of 24 out of 50 for the daily categories. Add them all up, we get a grand total of 73 out of 150, one of the highest scores I've put on the cardboard. Only my personal daily driver, Stardust, beats it out, but that's because my car, a 2019 Buick LaCrosse, is actually Buick's flagship, while the Regal is not the flagship, so I would fully expect the Regal to have a slightly worse score. But ultimately, this car is still fine, while my car is more of a nice luxury cruising that also happens to get really good gas mileage due to the hybrid powertrain. The Regal takes the opposite approach, and it is just so fun to drive. There are times where I actually wish maybe I had one of these. Although, I don't know, it's really hard to ignore my car's fuel economy. And that's all I have to say. Yes, this video is finally being posted a year after shooting this. My apologies on my timelines and getting my crap together. But overall, I can say after a year of riding in this car and driving it a little bit when I have to take my mom home from the bar, it really is a good car. One of my personal favorites. I just don't have that much to complain about. And that's just how we're going to wrap up the video here. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor and interact with the stuff below. Also, do me a favor, check out my Patreon page. I would very much appreciate that. This is the Random Alpha Drive, signing out.